Hi there, welcome to another episode of these tutorials. So we're now at a point where we've gotten FLASK working, we've gotten PWA working, and we've had to change bits and pieces here and there to get it working. We've had a very simple application, so it's been fairly easy to get running. But even when I went through creating this course, and I'm no FLASK expert, I had several issues or errors that I had to chase down, nearly always due to typos, but you need to be able to find, where errors are occurring and why they're occurring, and do a bit of debugging. So I'm going to do just a very short video on a couple of the I guess, tricks or tips that I've learned from going through this process myself. Maybe it can help you when you're going through this process. So what I thought I'd do is I've got this here. So what the first thing to do is when you run your Python app, first of all, doubly make sure that you're in the correct folder. That's the first thing you can get wrong. So make sure you're in the right folder, then run your Python app. You're going to get these messages come up all the time. And usually what I do is I control click on this link. That brings it up into a browser. It should be, on the desktop. And yeah, that's not very interesting there. It's all working. So the first thing to do is probably have a look, is go and, once the pages come up, have a look at these lines here. And these lines here are basically a bit of a log telling you what has happened. And in particular, it's giving you HTTP return codes. Now, HTTP is the actual protocol that sends information between the browser and the web server, in this case, application.py, sorry, FLASK. And what we're getting is a 200, 304s, 304s. So what you should be aware of is, I have called them up somewhere, let me get them, HTTP response codes. So the one that you're probably going to see most often will be a 404. And that comes about when you do a typo or you mistype a file name. You'll often get a 404 because it means file not found. But these are the basic ranges. So if you get like something in the 200s or 300s, that's fine. But anything in the 400s, you need to worry about it. Now, what can happen is when you're doing the website, it may be you get a 400, but you can't really see any error on the page. You still need to be concerned because sometimes it'll be something small like a favicon not coming up or something like that. But you really need to chase down all of your 400 level errors. The next thing that I would recommend is that you go into the development tools, which is Shift-Control-I. Go to network, and if there's stuff here, just clear it with this symbol here. Let's clear that, and then refresh your page, and errors will come up. Any errors that you might have might come up here. So you can check here. You can see once again, these are all healthy codes, 200s and 300s, very much what came up on our browser here. So that's all looking good. The other thing that I should warn you about is that FLASK is kind of sticky in that it really likes to cache things. Now, if you're not sure what cache means, or caching, the idea of caching is that when you download a website, you obviously have to upload all of the assets that go into letting your computer render that website. If you're to go into that website a second time, like click refresh or something like that, the browser will think there's not much point re-downloading all of the assets if you've already downloaded them just 5 seconds ago. So what it does is it keeps a temporary version of all assets that are downloaded in a temporary storage area called cache. And rather than downloading them off the internet, it just grabs them from there and puts it on your page. It means that your web pages load faster. It can be an issue when you're going through development because you don't want to look at old versions of things. You want to change things and they come up straight away. At the moment, all my settings seem to be okay, but a couple of things to look at would be this thing here. So that setting there, disable cache. Another setting is here in app.py. You can see debug true is on. That's another thing that helps with caching. It also helps with these error messages. If you're having extra trouble with caching, you can actually add commands in here. I haven't got them because I don't need them, but you can add things. So caching is important in that you want it at one setting when you're developing, which is you really want to reload everything all the time. But then once you go into production, you really want the opposite. You don't really want to cache anything. You don't really want to not cache anything unless you absolutely have to. But for the development side of things, you want things not really to be cached so that you can make a change and then they just come out. And maybe we'll give an example of that. So at the moment, we've got School Assistant for A, which is coming up here. So if I change that to a B, one of the effects of this debug equals to true is that if you change one of these files, apparently, it will automatically be updated within FLASK. So if I press refresh here, it goes to B. Now, sometimes what you'll find, the symptom of this caching is you'll press refresh and it will stay at A, and you really want to force it to B and it won't go. There's a few options you can do. I just want to let you know about them. The first is you can press the control key and then click on refresh. That does a sort of hard refresh. So second thing you can do is right click on the refresh and you can do empty cache and hard reload. So that's another good one as well. Third thing you can do is you can go to application, and this is probably the most thorough of all that I've seen, is clear site data. Now this is great because the alternative to this would be going into something like delete browsing data, and that's deleting it for all your websites. Then you lose your cookies and things like that. You have to re-log into any sites you're logged into. So this thing here is just for this site, and it's really quite useful. You can click it and be fairly confident that all of your cache, everything that was stored for this site, is now cleared. And so those are the sort of main things that I sort of came across. What I also came across generating errors, especially when I initially started doing this, was typos. So say, for example, I had added an extra N on the manifest, right? Now, so I do that, I click refresh, and the first thing you'll notice is that this is no longer a PWA. You can see up the top here that thing's gone because the manifest file it can't find. But what you can see is that it pretty much loads the page okay. There's not really that much wrong. So from a user's point of view, it isn't that visible that there's an error at the moment. That's why it's pretty important to be looking down here. Sometimes you have to scroll as well. Down here, and you would see a 404. And that's saying, if you look that up, file not found. It doesn't know where to supply the manifest file from because it's JSON with a double N. And so it's just bombed out, okay? So you really need to look here. You also see this very clearly if you clear all the messages, press refresh, and you'll see manifest is not working there either. You can get some information about that to help you track it down. These are the main things or tricks so far that I've used to get this up and going. I would say now the subsequent videos are going to start looking at SQL databases and stuff like that, which is all important and it is part of FLASK. But maybe what you might be interested in doing at this stage is taking a little bit of a break of my videos and looking up some tutorials yourself. Now, the FLASK website itself, this is, if you Google up FLASK, this is the actual project, FLASK project. They have a tutorial somewhere, templates, handling. I'm sure I've seen a tutorial on here. Of course, when you're looking for it, you can't find it, but I'm pretty sure there's a tutorial here, okay? You can follow that tutorial there. There's also a Geeks for Geeks tutorial. If you want a different one, you can do that. It's probably worth having a bit of a look now at those tutorials and rather than just copying and pasting, starting to understand what we've actually done. As I've said in the previous videos, FLASK is all about, at least initially, about relating these external references to files that we've got stored here. Okay, so we need this syntax here. This syntax, by the way, is called Ginger. It's a sort of language in its own right that lets you do text substitutions. That will be covered in the tutorials that I mentioned previously. So it's probably worth having a bit of a look at that. I'd be interested to know how you guys go, so you can leave me feedback on how you've gone so far, which has really been just cutting and pasting. I've just tried to get you to a position where you've got sort of a template. I guess you could say this is a bit of a template that you could use now to build on to create your own FLASK/PWA application. And rather than starting from scratch, you can just use this as a sort of template. You can use a lot of this syntax. It'll be repeated over and over again. And hopefully I've given you a few tools as well to help you track down problems either with your copying and pasting, typos, stuff like that, or when you start developing and it's just not working and you're not sure what to do. I might leave this video at this point here. As I say, the next videos now will start to be more in relationship to SQL, and I might make one final video about going a bit more in depth into FLASK, how it works, and how you go about actually coding, something like this, and some of the possibilities that are here, rather than just copy and paste it. Thanks for your attention. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.